Let's get the read on all this and where things are going with Dow Jones Newswire's chief editor, Glenn Hall. We've got Fairfax Global Markets CEO, Paul Dietrich, and Barron senior reporter, Mary Childs. Mary, I mean, it just is escalating. A lot of this isn't a shock, but China could have escalated it all the more and chose not to. Could have gone for the $100+ billion worth in U.S. goods that make their way there. What did you read into that?
I feel like there's a lot of sensitivity here, right? There are so many different levers to pull, and each side is being really cautious and insofar as it's possible to remain blustering and confident, but also a little bit cautious and reserve things maybe for later. So I think, you know, as we have these two great egos facing off against each other, you want to make sure you have something in the holster to use for later. So that's kind of what I read into it.
You know, I haven't seen a response from the president to say, oh, yeah, you do that? I'm going after the $325 billion in remaining goods we get from China. He hasn't done that. Maybe this is all planned out.
I think you're right. You know, in my talks with some of the people who have been involved on the negotiating team, they're basically everyone thought that a deal was done and it was going to get finalized this last week. And the Chinese, as a last-minute negotiating tactic, which they've done before, came in and backtracked on a number of things, thinking that they could force through some last-minute compromise. We have till June 1st, as you mentioned. That's the first date. I think it's going to be the G20 summit, June 28th, 29th, when Xi and Trump get together, these two big egos, and I think the deal will be made then.
A lot riding on this in that meeting, and then by that time, assuming everything goes as planned, we'll be 2 or 3 weeks into tariffs, higher tariffs on both sides of the continent. Then what?
Well, I think right now the good news is talks are still happening. It didn't blow up, right?
Well, on its schedule, right? We heard from Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, nothing is on the table right now, but they talk about talking. Right?
I think we're still in the negotiating phase here, where each side has taken a stand, or we're trying to push on different points that each side wants. And what we're going to see is those talks continue, I think, for the next couple of weeks until one side or other either gets the minimum that they need to carry on, right? So what are we going to see in June? I don't think we're going to see the immediate impact on the U.S. economy. I think China's going to feel it a little bit more, but both sides are still dancing around serious, trade battle.
I don't know how they bridge these gaps here. Mayor, one of the things I do notice, though, is that by China appealing to the WTO, that's unusual. We were the ones in prior administrations that appealed to the WTO. Hey, they're not playing fair. Now it's China doing that. It could be a sign that they're pulling all the strings here. I
think that's right. We were talking just a minute ago about kind of the ways in which these things are enforceable and how you actually make sure that these, you may reach an agreement at the table and then everyone goes home and like whatever.
Right.
So that's a critical difference.
You do say whatever too. Yeah, you're right about that.
Exactly, verbatim. So I wonder, if they're trying to appeal to an international community, to what extent they're trying to say, hey, they're being the bully now. They're being mean to us, and this has a threat, right, to bring the whole global economy.
But Europe isn't exactly sympathetic to them, right? Because they've been hosed too, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was interesting. Last Friday, Vice Premier Liu basically told the Secretary of the Treasury and Bob Lighthizer, the chief negotiator, trust us to enforce our regulations rather than making us put these into law. And they looked back at him and they said, we've been doing that for 30 years and you haven't, you continue to misinterpret
Well, we do bring up a
agreements.
valid point. That's like trusting me to eat a salad when I say that it doesn't always happen. But I do wonder, Glenn, where this goes, because the administration was trying to present this view, that was the president was, we're getting all this tariff money, I'm the tariff man, I love the tariff, my billions is coming in here. We pay for that. That comes on us, and even Larry Kudlow admitted as much over the weekend. So I think the reality of that, once these tariffs take effect, is going to hit Americans. Then what?
Yeah, there's a couple of political gambits going on here. Let's keep in mind we are in the 2020 election cycle already.
You're absolutely right.
So promises have to be kept and momentum has to be found somewhere. So that's going to put pressure on the negotiations. Are we going to feel it? Maybe a little bit if it prolongs and it keeps happening and we see further escalation.
And we wouldn't absorb the full 25%, right? We might have to absorb, what, 15%?
We don't have to buy everything China wants to sell us.
We can find an alternative.
Exactly.
Less. There's been several studies that show that of the 10% that we've had right now, only about 3% has actually gone to consumers, because half of that was, Kudlow was right, it's on both sides. What the Chinese did is that they manipulated their currency down, which made the dollar go up.
It absorbed the impact for us. I don't know if you can do that, Mary, at 25%. I think all bets are off.
It'll be 30%.
And I do think that that's an interesting, there's also a feed-through effect, right, where everyone, companies are trying to reevaluate their global supply chain, logistics, all of this. There's a cost to that, right? It may not be immediate, but as you see these things feed through and as companies try to cope and figure out how to work around it, that builds in cost to research it, to rebuild it. All of that
That's
will also
very, very
feed
real.
through.
I didn't realize how much shampoo, even deodorant, we get from China. What if people just stop using shampoo and deodorant?
Good
It would be
idea.
French.
It's a scare.
Let's try
Are
it.
they running a surplus? I don't know. All right, guys, thank you all very, very much.